happen to be now practicing a modality that I truly believe is beneficial for children with autism. And I say that based on research. So this isn't just some pie in the sky thinking it might work. This is actually, there are documented cases of modalities similar to this, most notably network spinal analysis, that improve symptoms of autism. And by that, I'm not suggesting that it's curing autism or getting rid of autism. What I'm suggesting is that children receiving these types of therapies, and I'll tell you more about the specific one that I practice here in a minute, children receiving these types of therapies show a reduction in the severity of their symptoms. So whatever that looks like. Now, of course, one autistic child is as different from another one as night and day, and there are definitely some distinctions between each one. So I'm going to make a few generalizations here, just so you know. Based on the autistic children that I have been around, and based on these studies, so one of the symptoms that has been shown to improve is ability to be around others without going into shutdown mode, whatever shutdown mode looks like for that child. It may be outright rebellion or tantrums or whatever it may be, or it may be actually shutting down. And the way that these, and of course there are other instances as well, research shows that there's an improvement in verbal communication, there's an improvement in several other symptoms as well. You are always welcome to reach out to me for a direct link to those references so you can look into it yourself, because, you know, I'm with you. I'm always skeptical to hear somebody claiming something. So the way that this works, whether we're talking network spinal analysis, whether we're talking what I practice, which is spinal flow, which basically pulls from several different, all of these are gentle touch chiropractic. So it's not snap, cracking, and popping. It's actually light touch along the spine to encourage the parasympathetic nervous system to take over. We live in a day and age where I'm going to make this generalization. All of us are living in fight or flight for way too much of our lives. And in that state, we really can't process what we receive into our bodies. We can't process emotion well. We can't process food well, sensitivities and all of this kind of thing. We can't even process physical stresses well. You know, anybody with exercise intolerance. So how this works, regardless of which of these modalities we're speaking of, is really focusing in on the parasympathetic nervous system. And with that increase, their studies show that this increases the flow of cerebrospinal fluid up and down the spine in people with autism. There is an altered flow of cerebrospinal fluid compared with healthy people. And normally it's diminished flow. So these therapies have been shown to increase the flow of cerebrospinal fluid up and down the spine. What this does is, from a spinal flow standpoint, this dislodges stuff that we've stored in our spine, which is the back of the mind, returns it to the lymphatic system, because this cerebrospinal fluid drains into the lymph system. Once it's in the lymph system, the body can process it and eliminate it. Now, network spinal analysis sees things a little bit different. And I go back and forth with talking about both these, because these are the ones that, while I'm trained in spinal flow, I have also put a lot of time in researching network spinal analysis. So network spinal analysis sees that we hold these tension patterns along our spine. And why is this important? Well, everywhere that we're holding these tension patterns, we have a disruption of how the vertebrae sit in that area of the spine. So instead of vertebrae sitting, you know, this far apart and parallel with each other. We've got torsion in those vertebrae. Sometimes we've got skewed vertebrae. Sometimes we've got outright compression. So it's not necessarily a ruptured disc in between there. We're just kind of squishing that disc. And what this is doing is this space between vertebrae is very important. The reason it is important is because there are nerves that exit this space and they travel to organs and tissues in that part of the body. And chiropractic science sees nerve flow as essential to life and health as blood flow. Now, nerve flow looks a lot different than blood flow, of course, because here we're not talking, it's not really something that we can see. It's electrical impulse. And so we're dealing in the realm of energy. And when we're talking energy impulses, when we're talking these electrical impulses, one of the things that can dissipate that signal is resistance. So anytime we have compression between two vertebrae, and once again, this is compressing that fluid-filled disc in between vertebrae. It doesn't mean that that disc is herniated, doesn't mean that disc is leaking. It means that disc is kind of squished more than it should be. But there's the same amount of fluid in it. That increases the density of the fluid in that disc, and it puts extra resistance on the nerve. Another thing, when we have these tension patterns in our spine, the connective tissue around it, the ones that are actually connecting the vertebra itself to the muscles along the spine, to that musculature along the spine, there's extra tension in that connective tissue as well. And so we start having all of these areas of tension, and areas of tension are areas that are hard, are areas that are more dense, are areas where there is restricted blood flow. And we've got that alongside these nerves that are trying to supply our tissues and our organs. And so with whether we're talking network spinal or whether we're talking spinal flow, what we are doing is increasing the flow of cerebrospinal fluid with both of these. We are dissipating those tension patterns because as we bring the body's focus to areas of ease within the nervous system, it allows a dissipation of these long-held tension patterns. And as we start to move and reorganize and hold ourselves differently, posture-wise, we relieve those tension patterns. We relieve that resistance on the nerve, allowing better nerve flow to the organs and tissues of the body. And we're able to do that with a lot less energy. So if we think of our energy, so this is kind of getting a little bit segued. This is, although it's still very important to the conversation. If we think of our energy as we wake up in the morning and we have 100%, just like a battery, right? We're just like a battery. We have 100% life because we've recharged overnight. Then throughout the day, every stressor that everything that we do either adds to our energy bank or it takes away from it. And so if we're using 80% of our energy just to hold ourselves upright, we only have about 20% energy left to go through the day and actually feel well. And if we've got digestive disturbances, we're not absorbing our food well, we have food sensitivities and intolerances due to this fact that we're, our 100% is not somebody else's 100%. We're kind of like an old phone instead of a new phone. Then all of a sudden you can start to understand how important it is and how much energy just might be involved in just holding a body upright. And so once again, as we start to alleviate and move and reorganize the spine all through light touch, okay, not the snap, cracking, and popping, all through light touch, allowing the body's wisdom to take over, then what we see is major change in the person receiving these therapies. So spinal flow, just to give you a little bit more background, well, actually, we're going to stop there for this video. for more on spinal flow, like the history of spinal flow, history of NSA, check out the links below. If you are interested, I am actively seeking parents with autistic children who allow themselves to be touched for a trial. Okay, this is exchanged for a few sessions with feedback, potentially photos or video to your comfort level, demonstrating the change in posture, demonstrating any kind of change in behavior over the course of 8 sessions. Okay, so that is the ask. That is what I'm looking for. In case you are interested, reach out to me at hey@theflowtoheal.com. That is hey@theflowtoheal.com. All right. Until next time, bye.